Everybody, my name is Abdul Naderi, and I am a part of Adrian Wheeler's CIS 3367 class at Baruch College. Today, I am going to talk about my final presentation, which is maximizing the return of investment. Our main goal for us is optimizing production through the use of Excel Solver. I created an example by scratch that will break down everything you need to know so you can also be an Excel Solver expert. In the example I created, Naderi Enterprise Corporation, it is a company that makes monitors, speakers, cameras, and mousepads. Now let's assume that we already know about all the details from the following, which is our profit per unit. So for example, for every monitor we sold was at 15.10. For every speakers we sold was at $12, and the same applies for the other items. We already know that our labor hours and our time for each specific item, and we also know our monthly demand for our items that we got from sales. So in order for us to find out the maximum value of profit, we have to follow some strict constraints when using the Excel solver. Now there are three constraints given to us, which is our monthly labor hours, which is 20,000, our monthly production hours, 3,000, and last but not least, the most critical constraint to keep in mind, which is don't go over available demand. As you can see from our monthly demand, which is over here, this is how much we started off with, and on this chart below, we are going to calculate our monthly profit using the same data from our monthly demand. In order for us to calculate our monthly profit, we first have to enter equal to my profit per unit times the number of units per sold. In our case, that will be B10. So it will be B10 times 816. And with the great use of this Excel features, you can just drag it across and it would automatically fill in the same formula for the other items. Now we want to find out the total of our monthly profit and our units. So from this data, we can see that if we met our monthly demand, our profit would be over $833,400. Now we want to focus on adding our constraints. So labor hours and production hours will be part of that constraint. So in order for us to find out our total of labor hours, we have to select labor hours per unit times the number of units that we make, and then just drag the cell box across to fill in everything. So the example would be right over here. It will be equals to B11 times B16, and that will give us our production hours, and the same applies for labor hours, same process. And one way, we can fix this constraint issue would be to simply manually change how much production unit you make monthly. So instead of making, let's say 14,000 monitors, we made 8,000 instead. So we can just change it to 8,000. And instead of 40,000 speakers, we made 19,000 instead. So let's change this to 19. Sorry. 19. Now instead of 11,000 cameras, let's say we made 7,000 instead. And instead of 9,000, let's say we made 7,000. Now you're probably asking me why I'm changing this right now, but we can clearly see over here that we have made past constraints as our production hours and our labor hours have now changed, and is below the constraint given. So our total labor hours is 19,680, and that's below the 20,000 monthly labor hours given. And our production hours is 2,713, and before, and it's below the constraint, which is 3,000. Now, I wanted to show you guys how you can use Solver to find the most accurate data for maximizing profit. So on this page right here, you can see that I color coded some cells. Now I color coded my objectives functions that I want to maximize as yellow and my constraints as red and the production unit slash monthly as blue. We are mostly going to move around our production unit to get the data. If you haven't already installed Excel Solver, all you have to do is go to File, Options, click Add-ins, and in the Manage box, select Excel Add-ins and check out Solver, add-in on Windows. For Mac, all you have to do is go to Tools, you go to Excel's Add-ins, and then make sure your Solver add-in is checked, press OK. You have Solver up and running, you can find it on the Data tab on the ribbon and select Solver. So Data tab, ribbon is the ribbon, and Solver. On the objectives, we want to add in our yellow coded objective. So which is G12, you want to select G12. And notice how there are multiple features such as maximize, minimize, and you could also find the exact value of a number. Now, for this section over here, you want to change are going to be color coded in blue. So you can just select over here C11 and just drag it here, select everything in blue. And we're basically finished right now, except we forgot the most important part, which is adding the constraints. Now the constraints are going to be color coded in red. And in order to add constraints, you want to click Add, perform a cell reference. So you want your total labor hours. So total labor hours is your cell reference, less than or equal to, and you're going to want to add your constraint. So add your constraint, press OK. Now you want to add all of your constraints. So you have multiple constraints. So in order to do the same thing applies for production hours. Cell reference to production hours, less than or equal to, then add your constraint. Press OK. You're still not done because then you want to cell reference all of your production unit monthly, less than or equal to constraint, which is the band constraint. It's okay. Now you're basically finished here, and all you want to do now is just click solve. So once you hit solve, it should automatically find the best solution for your data to find the maximum value profit. Once you hit solve, as you can see, the solver found the solution. All constraints and optimally conditions are satisfied. We have the choice to keep our current solver solutions or restore our original values. So notice our numbers have changed a little bit. So we can press OK. And now, as you can see, our total profit value has increased by a lot. It's at $833,400. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much. That's how you use Excel Solver.